The final game of week number 14 in the National Football League on a Monday night in Dallas. Maybe a few weeks ago, certainly at the start of the season, this game would seem like a wonderful marquee matchup at this time of the year, second full week of December, playoff implications, right? And not so much. Both teams technically are still alive. Neither has been eliminated, at least technically or officially, but in our hearts, in our minds, we know, hey, it's still football. 5.5-point spread, DRS, in favor of the Bengals on the road in the Star tonight. Over-under is 49.5. DRS, oftentimes they say in handicapping, motivation can be fraudulent. You can't quantify motivation. You can't quantify mentality for the most part among a locker room with a coaching staff. But I think motivation plays a huge factor into this handicap. Do the Bengals have any more life? Again, not eliminated, but at 4-8 in losing what was their Super Bowl of many Super Bowls this year, last week at home to Pittsburgh off the bye, does Cincy really have any belief they can be a playoff team? Now, the Cowboys have actually won 2 straight games and have looked decent against mediocre competition, or not even mediocre, beating the Commanders a couple of weeks ago. They're 5-7. They've had some time off. Can they make a run at a place at the Star? They've won only 1 game this year. That was, of course, on Turkey Day against the New York Giants. DRS, how are you approaching this Monday night finale to Week 14?
From a prop perspective, like, you might look at these two teams as being bad, but there's a difference between, like, let's just say, I don't know, like we would have watched yesterday. Let's just say Monday Night Football tonight was the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. 2 teams going nowhere, but boy, are they boring teams. You have 2 teams right now going absolutely nowhere and so much fun to try to handicap because neither of these defenses can get a stop, and both of these offenses can move the football. Well, hey, Cooper Rush on the other side. Well, Cooper Rush settling in here. He'll probably throw 45 times tonight. The Cincinnati Bengals defense, they can't stop anybody. So you might get a glimpse of what the Dallas Cowboys hoped to have had in the previous parts of the season as an offense that was moving up and down the field, even without Dak Prescott. And then you flip it over to the other side. The one thing that you have to say, professional players will give you their best effort for the most part. Defenders, maybe not so much, and some business decisions out there making tackles or not making tackles could take place. But make no mistake about it. Quarterbacks, running backs, pass catchers, they want their yards. They want their stats. You don't think T. Higgins is going into this game going, I'm a free agent next year. I need to ball out and keep those numbers high. Or Jamar Chase going like, I'm going to absolutely break the bank of this franchise. I better keep performing under my numbers. And Joe Burrow out here is having a sensational season already. You think he wants to go out there tonight, go 15 for 34, 2 interceptions, and $174? Absolutely not. And the same thing with Cooper Rush, trying to stay in the league. Rico Dowdle trying to prove he's an NFL running back. CeeDee Lamb, you know he got paid and wants to prove his weight here. Brandon Cook's finally coming back to give you an honest effort on the opposite side now. There's plenty of juice to get involved in this football game, even if both of these teams absolutely stink out loud, Ben.
In DRS, maybe some points then in the offensive production. The Bengals have played to the over in 9 of 12. To your point about the Dallas Cowboys with Cooper Rush under center, let that guy air it out. They have gone over in all 3 games, or their last 3 games, I should say. When did Dak get injured? Against Atlanta? So Cooper's first start was against Philadelphia. They only scored 6 points, and that game stayed under. But the Cowboys have gone over in 3 straight. 3 consecutive, though, DRS, back-breaking losses for the Bengals. The 1-point defeat to the Ravens. The Sunday night game in L.A., they lost on a late touchdown from J.K. Dobbins. And then, of course, after the bye last week against the Steelers, where we expected at some point, even being 4-5 after the winless 0-3 start, the Bengals would find that resolve just to eke out wins, to improve the overall record, to have some hope of being a playoff team. That has not happened. It has gone the other way. How much belief is left in a team, Donnie, the odds makers are asking you to lay 5.5 points with on the road? Here's what I will say. Cincy on the road, so much better. 5-1 against the spread this year, but often an underdog. The Cowboys did beat the Giants on Thanksgiving for their first home victory. It was their only home cover as well. They're 1-5 against the spread in the Star this year by an average cover margin of not looking good, negative 17.1 points per game.
Yeah, and yes, we understand the struggles that Dallas has had for the majority of the season at home, but also keep in mind that pass attack for Cincinnati is going to a dome tonight. It's not December in Cincinnati, 30 degrees, 20-mile-an-hour winds. You should be getting pinpoint accuracy on both sides tonight with weapons and bad defenses. Let's make some money, baby.
All offense, prompt perspective when hour 3 starts next. Live right here on the early line, we welcome you to hour number 3, bright and early on this Monday morning, all across the Sports Grid Network. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. One final hour to go to set the stage for the Monday Night Football finale tonight in the Star. Maybe not the game or the teams we expected at this stage of the season to end out the 5th to final week of the regular season between the Cowboys and the Bengals. But Donnie's building the optimism. We're seeing some offense, some points, and some prompt production tonight on this Monday. We'll hear from the people in just a moment. We'll hear the prop perspective from Tom Vecchio a little bit later on. Injury insight from the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow. And Donnie, we got to dive back in. The Juan Soto sweepstakes now over the New York Mets. The big winners with a big payday that is due 15 years, $765 million for Juan Soto joining the Amazons.
Yeah, sometimes you look at the money and it is so outrageous, but when did we get the contracts at 15 plus years? Like, this doesn't even make any sense financially, except you're a guy that has so much money, it just doesn't matter anymore. Like, Juan Soto is going to be 40 plus years old when this ends here, maybe just hanging around like Albert Pujols, but making, I guess it would be a bargain, $50 plus million a year when everybody's going to make in $70 million a year in 16 years. It's one thing where we look at the Major League Baseball, and it is flawed, but like, Ben, you're a Dodgers fan. We don't want a salary cap. I'm a Phillies fan. I really don't want a salary cap because you have an ownership group that's willing to spend over and get the best players. But for the goodness of the league, it's not really good that the price point is here, because what happens next, Ben, with the next big free agent? Are we right up in this range? Because, Ohtani's that outlier here. Ohtani's not an outlier anymore. Like, other guys are going to be making this money, which is a shame where you look at now at Aaron Judge and the Bryce Harpers and like, boy, I wish we were in another sport where I can just hold out and renegotiate and get my $700 million contract.
I think other players from other sports wishing they were in another sport and playing Major League Baseball, maybe not taking hits. One of the best things I saw yesterday was Darren McFadden, former Arkansas great running back, of course, played in the NFL for numerous years, saying that when he was younger, he wished he learned how to hit a bat and not hit the hole. And who could disagree with Darren McFadden in that spot? We'll talk more about Juan Soto, what the money means, what it all means for the Mets moving forward into 2025 and beyond. But DRS, let's go to Monday Night Football. Again, we have the Bengals as a 5.5-point road favorite at the Star in Dallas. Total 49.5. So now time to hear from the people. What's the best bet for Monday night? We all learn together and Fade the Public. What's the best bet for Monday Night Football? At Sports Grid on Twitter. The Bengals laying 5.5. The Cowboys as the home underdog, looking for win in cover number 2 at home this year in the greater Fort Worth area. Over 49.5 or under that number. DRS, it's really close. The people thinking it's the Bengals and the over. I see it live right now. 35.1% on Cincy, laying 5.5. 35.5%. So just edging out by 0.4 percentage points. That would be the over, expecting some offense tonight at over 49.5. Is Donnie Rightside fading the public?
Look, I am fading the public in one direction. I won't fade them on the over, but you only get one vote. You can't vote multiple times. Like, what's your best side? What's your best total? So I agree. The over 49.5 does have the juice at 35.5% because you're looking at two teams going nowhere in a dome. Like, we're not punting on 4th and 1 anywhere on the football field, it feels like, which is great news for the over. And also, if you want to continue those drives and up the ante here with some of those prop bets that you might have. But for me, I did take the Cowboys at 5.5. And quite frankly, I don't think they're the better football team. But I just look at it and say, the Bengals can't stop anybody, anywhere, at any time. Why should they be laying more than a field goal, not even at home, but on the road? Yes, I understand the metrics that go into the football game that shows the Dallas Cowboys usually get slaughtered at home. I understand that. But no way, shape, or form, this Bengals team that should win this football game, I can't see them, Ben, winning going away. And also, let's just say the Bengals are up, 10 with a minute and a half to go. That defense isn't making any stops against the Dallas Cowboys. You'll be able to plow down the field and hopefully get a touchdown, at least a field goal to still keep you in the loop at that point. That's my angle on this game. I like the prop bets way more, and we'll have a lot of fun with those today. But I just can't trust the Bengals by roughly a touchdown on the road with that defense. I can't buy it.
And so here we are, right? The Bengals away from Cincinnati this year, so much better. The Cowboys haven't been great anywhere, but better earlier in the year away from the star as well. Cincy is 5-1 against the spread on the road this season, a perfect 3-0 ATS as an away favorite. But those 3 victories and covers on the road in Carolina, winning by double digits in the Meadowlands or at East Rutherford inside MetLife against the Giants as a road favorite, beating the Browns by a touchdown as a road favorite as well. Very different teams in that time. Maybe you're saying, hey, listen, I know Dallas has won twice in a row with Cooper Rush, but it's still the Cowboys and Cooper Rush. The Bengals are the better side. I just don't know how much belief the Bengals would admit they have left into actually trying to win football games and hammering the opposition. And I'm not sure the defense, if we see the Cowboys offense play the way it has the last 2 weeks, can even hold up enough for the Bengals to win this game comfortably. I think Cincy probably wins outright. I would lean with 5.5 points with the Cowboys. But again, DRS, in the Fade the Public poll, I agree with the public. I think we can expect some points tonight. And of course, that starts at the quarterback spot. Joe Burrow, 270.5 is his number. At the end of 13 weeks, he was the NFL's leading passer. Would be putting up MVP numbers if his team wasn't 4-8 and rather 8-4. Cooper Rush, though, on the other side, has started to find his footing. At least they're allowing him to air the football out because the Cowboys are still having a difficult time establishing the run. 230 and a hook, the number for Cooper Rush.
Yeah, no, and again, you're expecting, let's just say, the favorite side for Joe Burrow to be leading, which could lead to extra yardage for Rush, but it's not like extra yardage against, let's just say, the Philadelphia Eagles defense or the Buffalo Bills or the San Francisco 49ers, and teams that have played, decent defense in the past. You're going up against a team that you should be able to shred when they're in a prevent defense to end the game. So I look at both of those numbers and think they're capable, and just getting back to the original point, just don't try to outsmart yourself. Like, you're in a dome with 2 defenses that can be had, particularly 2 great wideouts on one side with a great quarterback of Cincinnati, and then just a product by default, a really bad defense. You have some upgraded wide receiver positions because we always talk about CeeDee Lamb, but Brandon Cooks coming back had 7 targets last week. What is a big game from? No, but working his way back in just to give you something else outside of Tolbert on the outside will be massive for Cooper Rush in this game. And Rico Dowdle, he should have room to run tonight, which helps the passing game and the play action passing game for the Dallas Cowboys. And also, again, 2 bad football teams. We're not punting. We're throwing the kitchen sink out here and having some fun tonight, which is why that total is posted around 50 points. We should be getting some points tonight in this game and some yards.
Both teams bottom 10 in scoring defense. Both teams bottom 10 in rushing defense. I mentioned the Cowboys have struggled to establish the run. Not exactly the last 2 weeks in their 2 wins. Rico Dowdle on the come up, 19 carries, 86 yards in the upset in Landover against the Commanders. 22 carries for $112 on the ground and a score last week on Thanksgiving against the New York Giants, who have had a difficult time containing the run this year. Chase Brown, a touchdown last week. You see the number, minus 180 to hit Payday. And DRS, as we go back just to the quarterbacks very briefly here, interested to see the attempt props tonight for both of our QBs. For Joe Burrow, 36.5. Same exact number for Cooper Rush, who has thrown the ball 55 times, 32 times, 36 times in the last 3 for the Cowboys. All 3 games trending to the over for Dallas.
Yeah, and also I haven't taken a look at some of the defensive props, Ben. Usually it's not like interception props I like, but tonight there are some really good pass rushers. If we're dropping back that many times with susceptible offensive lines, you're going to get some sacks. Micah Parsons, maybe pair him up with Hendrickson on the opposite side. You could do some damage. Odighizuwa and the boys on the front line getting pressure. Let's go.
The prop perspective on a Monday for the Monday Night Football finale to week number 14. That's with TV Tom Vecchio of Sports Grid, live right here on this Monday morning on the early line on Sports Grid. Okay, we've had some issue with the structure of these segments the last few
just
times.
Just say hello, Tom. Just say hello.
Hold on. Here's how I'm going to do it, right? Here's the structure. Here is the structure, right? Tom, I'm going to mention something about some network and company camaraderie. You are going to respond. I'm going to ask you about the game. You are going to respond. Give your insight. Donnie then will skip over the totals and ask about the quarterbacks. Bing, bang, boom. So, Vecchio, as we follow in order, tomorrow, despite working together for the better part of 3.5 years in various capacities here on the Spiz Grizz Network, it's the Sports Grid holiday party, and we finally get to meet in person. I'm incredibly excited.
I am very excited as well. Like you said, 3.5 years. We're dating back to June or July of 2021. The first few times we did a show talking about baseball, talking about home runs. I specifically remember talking about some Red Sox going up against the Blue Jays pitcher. I'd have to double back and check on that. But it's been a long 3 years. I'm ready to roll for tonight.
Heck yeah, Vecchio. Heck yeah. We love that. We've already decided on a firm bro hug on our initial meeting in person. Now let's get to Monday Night Football in Dallas. The Bengals a 5.5-point favorite against the Cowboys on the road, total at 49.5. Vecchio, we started talking about this game, Donnie and I, in our breakdown. How much would motivation play a part? Can you really cap motivation as a part of this game? The Bengals are not eliminated, nor are the Cowboys from playoff contention. But Cincy is now 4-8, and the Cowboys with the backup in Cooper Rush are 5-7, despite 2 consecutive wins. You see the numbers. The Bengals a pretty heavy road favorite. High total. What do you think the numbers dictate in terms of how this game plays out tonight?
For tonight, I'm expecting points, right? Like you said, they're both not mathematically eliminated, but we all know that they're on the outside looking in at this point. So let's get out there and score some points. And that's kind of what we have seen from the Bengals. You know, one of the stats for them this year is they're 0-4 in games where they score 30-plus points. And their offense has never been the problem. Like Joe Burrow has never been the issue for the Bengals. It's really their offensive line and their defense. And, you know, admittedly, like Cooper Rush has been kind of solid over the past few weeks for the Cowboys, right? So let's get out there. Let's score some points. Both defenses are struggling. We can't take what the Cowboys defense did last week against Drew Lock. This is a completely different offense compared to what the Giants brought. So I think we're going to see some scoring tonight. Like, there's no reason for them not to push the ball, not to take an extra 4th down try. Because again, they are eliminated. Like, let's just call it what it is. They're eliminated. Let's score some points. Let's get some yards. Let's get some scoring. And we'll be in a good spot for some props tonight.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the quarterback position here. Cooper Rush and Joe Burrow tonight. Joe Burrow leads the way here, 270.5 as his passing prop, followed up by Cooper Rush at 230.5 here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Touchdown props to throw, each over 1.5, but juiced differently. Cooper Rush plus 136 to throw to. Joe Burrow minus 184. Which side we lining up here between Rush and Burrow, or both?
I think you looked at props for both. You know, I actually don't mind Cooper Rush for passing over 1.5 because, again, you know, we're looking at a team total that's sitting at 21.5 for the Cowboys and a game total that's sitting at 49. Let's call it 50. Like, we're expecting some points tonight. So Cooper Rush getting some action through the air is what I'm certainly expecting. And then for Burrow, I think his yards are fine. Realistically, I think you could ult him up to, 300 plus. I don't think it's out of the question tonight. But specifically for Burrow, I really like over 36.5 passing attempts. He's been over this mark in 5 straight. 2 of these games, he's up at 50 plus, 56. The Bengals come in with the 4th highest pass play percentage, sitting at 64.32. They throw the ball. Like, Chase Brown is good in the backfield, but he's not great, and he's not the path to the Bengals winning. The path to the Bengals winning is Joe Burrow having 300 yards and at least 2 touchdowns.
Over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Burrow, juiced at minus 184.
Yeah.
Why? He has had 4 consecutive games with at least 3 passing touchdowns. To hit 3 plus tonight, a sprinkle of plus money at plus 220. From the quarterbacks to the running backs, Vecchio, you mentioned Chase Brown. His production has been there, but just a part of the offense overall for Cincinnati. The Cowboys had struggled to run the football all season long, except for the last 2 weeks in their 2 consecutive wins. Rico Dowdle, 86 yards against the Commanders. Last week on Thanksgiving against the Giants, 112 yards and a score. Will Rico Dowdle continue that production for Dallas tonight?
I think he'll be good, but not great. And, like you said, we're going up against the Giants and the Commanders of the past 2 weeks for him. Like, we have to take that with a bit of a grain of salt. And, at face value, the Bengals' rush defense doesn't look great. But if you actually break it down by position, the rushing yards that they actually allowed, they've allowed 1,094 rushing yards specifically to running backs. That's actually the 8th fewest in the league. There's a lot of rushing yards that they allowed to opposing quarterbacks. So if you just look at their rushing yards per game, it actually doesn't tell the whole story. So I think Rico Dowdle is absolutely taking control of the backfield. We don't have to worry about Zeke. We don't have to worry about Deuce Vaughn. But I actually like him under 68.5 rushing yards because the Bengals' rush defense is actually a little bit better than people realize. I'm not saying it's amazing. I'm not saying it's one of the top units in the league, but it is actually better than some people realize. So I actually like the under for Dowdle tonight. And I want to see some more Cowboys receivers get involved. You've got to remember that they activated Brandon Cooks a couple weeks ago. He's back in. Jake Ferguson is back tonight. I think we're going to see some passing tonight.
Yeah, and also some of those backup tight ends did very well for the Dallas Cowboys over the past couple of weeks. So there are a lot more pass catchers tonight. And let's get to that environment here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. There's a plethora of wide receivers. Jamar Chase, 80.5 is the lead dog here for Cincinnati. And very rarely do you see this, an 80.5 and also a 70.5 with T. Higgins. So we're expecting passing here. On the opposite side, yes, you talked about guys like Jake Ferguson with CeeDee Lamb at 65.5. So many players across the board here to deal with, Tom. Where are we leaning towards today?
For the Cowboys, I think Jake Ferguson is my route to go, over 37.5. He's back from the concussion. He missed a few games. The Bengals, they allowed the 7th most receiving yards to opposing tight ends, sitting up at 783. I think CeeDee Lamb's number is fine. I think going to, Chase, you want to alt them up, get into 100. Same thing with T. Higgins. I think that's fine. For touchdowns, I think going to CeeDee Lamb I think it's a great number. We're getting, again, a 21.5 implied team total for Cowboys. We're expecting some points. And the same thing with Mike Gesicki at plus 360. I don't want to lay juice with Jamar Chase or Chase Brown. We got so many Chases here. It's not Vinny and drama. Well, I'm going to go to Mike Gesicki at plus 360. This is a play on the number, right? And a play on a game environment that has a 50 over under, essentially. I'm not laying minus 150 for a touchdown. We can get someone at plus 360. And I do like Mike Gesicki's red zone usage. I also like the fact that he hasn't scored in 8 games or so. So he should be in the mix now. I think you'd also go to his yards very clearly tonight as well.
So let's look again at those top props just to make sure you have everything jotted down from Tom Vecchio. Joe Burrow over his passing attempts prop. He has gone over this number in 5 straight. Rico Dowdle on the upswing, but maybe cooling down a little bit tonight. Jake Ferguson back in the mix for Dallas. And Mike Gesicki, the tight end for Cincinnati to hit Payday tonight. It does feature a total, Vecchio, of 49 and a hook. But you are the jack of all trades, as we detail each and every time. There is one NBA game tonight. The New York Knicks, 6-point road favorite up in the Great White North against the Raptors, who have been a good underdog covering team this year. 231.5 is that total. What's the play between the Knicks and the Raptors?
Specifically for the Knicks, I actually like their team total over 121.5. It is a little bit juiced at minus 118. Surprisingly, the Knicks actually lead the league in offensive efficiency. The Raptors are bottom 10, as we would all assume. Like you said, they are pretty good against the spread. But, I like the Knicks, coming off a, let's call it a bad loss against the Pistons, right? Like, this is a spot for them to get back on track. They got, some positive juice with the Mets news. There's some positive vibes in New York City. I also specifically like a little same game parlay of Karl-Anthony Towns at 20-plus points and Grady Dick at 15-plus points. You're getting that at plus 117. Some good back and forth scoring. Knicks put up a lot of points tonight, and I do think they come away with the victory, as you would assume.
Listen, quickly here, Vecchio. We're going to need a lot more hockey coverage on this network now. 3 games on the ice tonight. What do you like?
I can't bet on my Rangers because they look absolutely terrible, but I haven't dug into the slate yet. It's still early in the day.
Okay. Too early? That's fine. I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll see you tonight on the Sports Grid Network as well. More on the early line next. We continue our Monday Night Football preview live right here on the early line on Sports Grid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside. You can catch DRS tonight here on the Grid. NFL football in-game live game day alongside Joe Lisi. And you know what's interesting about tonight's game, DRS?
Wow.
Not just for our broadcast here on Sports Grid, but for the actual broadcast, there will be a Simpsons Fun Day component of it. And I hear we're doing the same on In-Game Live tonight between you and Lisi?
Yes,
Oh, look, yeah.
exactly. Look at the focus that we have between me and Lisa. Both of us hit our best bets yesterday. That's the focus you need tonight to bring to the occasion. So if it goes off the rails a little bit, or the energy isn't high, or maybe you might tune in and not even find us talking football tonight, we're gonna go. The gauntlet is going to be circled tonight. Absolutely.
I've got a two-part follow-up question. Number one, are you a Simpsons guy?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Like, do I watch now like I have to see it? No. But growing up and watching it through, like The Simpsons are on, I'm not turning it off. So, yeah, I'll be a Simpsons guy.
Good.
Yep.
Number two, do you believe that Joe Lisi has ever seen a single episode of The Simpsons?
Absolutely. Like, look, Lisa's a lot older than even I am at this point. So he was around for the heyday of The Simpsons back in the 90s. So absolutely. He probably even had the Bart Simpson T-shirts back in the late 80s, early 90s. Of course he did.
See, I was really expecting you to say, like, absolutely not. That guy doesn't know anything except 1982 college football. But then you went with the old joke, so it still did hit. All right, let's talk Monday night. Let's talk Monday night football and our breakdown of the game. Again, 5.5-point spread in favor of the Bengals. The over-under is lofty, 49.5. The Bengals over in 9 of 12 games this season. The Cowboys over in 3 straight, including their 2 consecutive wins in a row, as they are letting Cooper Rush air it out, and Rico Dowdle has stepped up his game in the last 2 weeks. DRS, you look at the numbers. If you had to go side or total, what would tempt you most?
It'd probably be the total 49.5. And you bring up a pretty good point, because when we like to handicap and measure out games, we like simplicity, Ben. The reason I bring that up is we know who the starting quarterbacks are going to be, barring injury. We also have lead dogs in the backfield on both teams that you're not going to have to get worried about getting, scooped out in every other drive. And I hope this is my drive where I'm in the red zone. Dowdle's going to be in, and we know Brown's going to be in. Then the wide receiver position. You have studs out there. If you go CeeDee Lamb tonight, I doubt he's like, you know what? Let's target everybody else but me. And the same thing with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. You know the key players of this game. 2 defenses that can be had, an environment that's going to be in a dome with an ultra-fast track. So there is sort of that production line that we like to see tonight, where it's not a lot of guesses like, like Gesicki at tight end and Ferguson. They should be the leading tight end in this game. Like, I didn't know this guy would come out of nowhere. I love paint-by-numbers type of games, and that's what we're setting up for. So for me, I do think the Dallas Cowboys cover this game, but am I willing to put money on it? Not necessarily. But the total 49.5, the way it pertains to prop bets, that's the way I like to go.
Yeah, DRS, I would agree with you. Like, I do think the Cowboys are probably the right side if I had to look at it right now. I'm not sure how much the Bengals have left in the tank. They've had 3 gut-wrenching, heartbreaking losses in a row that culminated last week at home as a field goal favorite against the Steelers in what was the 3rd or 4th Super Bowl-esque type feel for the Bengals this year, desperately needing to win a game to try to get their season resurrected and back on track. They came up short. And when you look at the Bengals, it has not been the offense that has failed them. It has been a defense that has been unable this year to make a stop in the most significant of moments. So I would lean with the over as well. The only thing, Donnie, the only thing that is holding me back from a Joe Burrow number in the over is the fact that we have shared the Bengals are a better team on the road this year. 5-1 against the number, a perfect 3-0 both straight up and against the spread, as in a way favorite. And the teams they have beat up on the road have not been great. Carolina, the Giants, and the Browns, I believe even before Jameis Winston did become the starter and things got fun in Cleveland. In those 3 games, the final 2 against the Giants and the Browns, dead unders. And Joe Burrow's passing attempts prop tonight, as Vecchio shared, is 36.5. He has gone over that number with at least 37 attempts, 50+ in 2 of the last 3 in 5 straight games. But in the 3 road games that the Bengals have been booked as a favorite, won and covered this year, Joe Burrow has not thrown for more than 240 yards. He has not attempted more than 30 passes in any of those games. Now, if the odds are correct, and I'm not sure they are, the Bengals should win this game comfortably, still against a bad Cowboys team, then I'm a little bit spooked out by those Joe Burrow numbers. I'm just not sure the numbers actually represent what we are going to see on the field tonight.
Yeah, and also, it's paint by numbers, right? As I say, you should have a big game by Burrow. You should have a big game by the wide receivers. We get that here. It's a dome and not a great Dallas Cowboys defense, but also you can have game wreckers on the opposite side. Like Overshone has been very good, but more importantly, Micah Parsons is finally healthy and starting to eat right now. He should get a sack tonight. You take a look at the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Micah Parsons to get at least a sack, minus 138. Put it this way. If Micah Parsons doesn't get a sack tonight, which means they're protecting Joe Burrow, watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. Can we go back real quick, though? I do want to show that. I don't think Donnie's. What is, right there. What is, what is this? What is that photo? What is happening
football.
There?
Hey, football, where are you? Yeah.
Is he like falling as he's handing something off? And this is against the Patriots, man.
Yeah, this was the first game of the season where he realized, right there, he's looking into the crystal ball like, damn it, we're going to stink this year, aren't we? Yep, he knew it. You know what I mean? Looks like that football was the crystal ball. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, prop perspective here, DRS. Ton of pass catchers tonight that you could really get down with. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, as you said, wide receivers are still wide receivers, and they're putting up ungodly numbers this year. CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks back, Jake Ferguson back now for the Cowboys as well. What's your best of the prop production tonight?
Look, I never usually scale up, which means like, hey, Chase should have a big game. Higgins could have a big game. Yeah. Same thing with CeeDee Lamb. I usually like to buy a little bit lower. I'm telling you tonight, like I saw yesterday in Sterling Shepard, secondary options with low numbers in a game you expect your quarterback to have around 250 passing yards. Brandon Cooks has to clear 26.5 and 7 targets last week when he was just coming back. He gets 7 more targets tonight. He obliterates that 26.5.
CD had a bad day on Thanksgiving. 12 targets in the 2 previous prior to Turkey Day. DRS, a big day in store. I'll see you tomorrow, not on the early line, but at the holiday party. 14 LF.